Today we're talking about this book. This is a bit of a diversion from the main series. We're going for The First Journey, which is Alternamorphs 1. Now, there were two Alternamorphs books, and this one just so happened to come at the exact midpoint of the main series, of the main 54 books. So, is this canon? Is the answer to that one. A quite solid... Because it shouldn't be canon. It shouldn't. And that's not because... I'm not saying that just because it's... Spoiler alert. Not great. But... let's explain while we go through the plot, shall we? Now, this book was ghostwritten by... Oh, for fuck's sake. This book was ghostwritten by somebody called Tonya Alicia Martin. And I believe this was the only book that they wrote, or were the ghostwriter for. And I've got to say that the most glaring part of this book is... Now, it might not be Tonya's fault, but there are strange spelling errors and weird uses of words. Like, for a couple of times, they used the word stomps. Lady was stomping, or she stomps around the room, but it was stumps, as in like tree stumps. Now, I've never seen the word stumps used in that way. Unless it's just me, and maybe it's an American thing, because I believe this is an American version of the book. It could be that. It could be that. But there are also other bits of this book that had just grammatical errors, just as if it hadn't been fully edited. And that's something that we haven't really seen very much in this series. I think only like one or two times. That's it throughout the previous however many books I've reviewed. There have been grammatical errors where an editor has just skipped over something or not seen something. But this is full of them. There's a few. It's like the editor. Now, I can't blame Tonya for this because, as far as I know, Animorphs is like most other books where somebody writes it and then it goes through an editing process where you've got editors checking it for errors, essentially. Somebody in Scholastic, I imagine. But whoever did this one thought, this book is a complete waste of time. I'm just going to fucking skim it. And if I see anything glaring, I shall edit it out. And obviously missed a few. I think it's quite hard to judge Tonya Alicia Martin's performance as a ghostwriter, because this book is fundamentally flawed. Fundamentally, I think. And that's just because of the style that it's trying to go for. When it comes to reviewing this book, this isn't going to come into my book ratings. I'm not going to give it a score out of 10 because it's not trying to... It's trying something completely different, essentially. So I'm going to be fair to the rest of the series and not count this towards any of the scores that I give these books or what have you. There's going to be no rating for this one. But I believe that they got the idea. Perhaps it was Scholastic. Maybe it was the authors and they thought they'd have a bit of fun. But I believe they got it from Goosebumps, which had a similar idea. I forget what the series was called. But Goosebumps was popular at the same time as Animorphs, so Goosebumps did that. So, of course, Animorphs has to go do it as well, which is the format I'm about to explain thusly. You, the reader, are in the book. It is you. There are no personality traits given to this character because it's supposed to be you. It's a blank slate that you put you on. And at the end of the occasional chapter, I think it's like 4 or 5 times it happens, you're given a choice at the end of each chapter of what you have to do. And then it says, if you made this choice, jump to page blah blah blah. And then you get to the end of that chapter and you find out either you've made the right decision, carry on, or you've made the wrong decision, go back to the previous question or previous choice. And there's a flaw. If you watch my channel a lot, you'll notice that yesterday I put up a video of me just reading the whole book. So you saw my entire experience of reading this, and I pointed out a couple of flaws. When I've gone forward, so I've answered a question, I want to morph a hyena for this particular question, this choice. And I zoom forward to the chapter where my choice begins. And as I open that page, my eyes dart immediately to the big bold black text on the other side of the page saying that the previous option was either a good idea or a bad idea. So if it said it's a good idea, then I know immediately that the choice I've made without having to read the chapter is the bad choice. So I feel like, well, why am I going to bother reading this? I'm just going to go back to that chapter. It sort of eliminates the point. I don't believe that this particular format of book ever became very popular. Maybe it has, but I just don't think it fits the book format, this multiple choice thing. I think it's much more suited to the internet, web pages, where you don't zoom through books and accidentally see the result of another choice that you didn't make. So that did ruin my experience a little bit. It's a very short book as well. It's only about 116 pages, which for an Animorphs book is very small. But not only that, but if you make the right choices on more than one occasion, you're skipping 20, 30 pages. That's a large chunk of the book. There's not much to it. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on the plot at all, really, because this book is the plots of books 1, The Invasion, and book 11, The Forgotten, just repackaged in a really strange way. The first half of the book, The Invasion, it's pretty standard. You're thrust in, and you go on a sort of different path to the rest of the Animorphs group. You sort of meet in the start, diverge, you do your thing, they do their thing, and then you meet up at the end. Bob's your uncle. But then the plot for book 11 comes in halfway through. Not even halfway through, it's like 2/3 of the way through. There's not much time dedicated to the plot of 11. But it does this really weird thing, where you go through a scenario rip again and you end up in the Amazon rainforest, just like they did in book 11. Now, the whole canon thing that I mentioned at the start of this, where I think it's not canon. But then as you read this part of the book, you realise Jake says, oh, this has happened before. And we did this, that and the other, the stuff that he did in book 11, which makes you think, hold on, so this is canon and it's happening again. So Jake knows what they're doing there. They've got basically the second time they've gone through the Sari rip, and Jake starts to remember it all, implying that this is some form of canon, even though it's not, because there is no sixth. It says sixth Animorph, even though there's 7. Look, put it this way. Look, there are. It's really not a really. There we go. Right, so you got 7 figures at the top, and you're the one in the middle, implying that there are 6 Animorphs, and you're joining them. But it says here, you have been chosen. You are the 6th Animorph. Are you ready? Now, anybody who's not too familiar with the Animorphs book series will look at that and think, do they not know how to count? There are 7 figures there, and you're the 7th one, but it says, I'm going to be the 6th Animorph. I mean, I just don't think it's a very new reader-friendly thing there. Again, that comes into the debate of, is Axe actually an Animorph, or is he just tagging along for the ride? Who fucking knows? That's a discussion for another day. So the plot generally follows what happened in books 1 and 11, except in book 11, because they've done it before and now they're there for a second time, they predict the trap that they fell into in book 11 and work their way around it. Okay. And yeah, that's it. That's the only real difference from the other books. In the invasion half of this book, the Animorphs do the thing that they normally do, and you're just sort of shoehorned in at the side, and while the Animorphs go do most of their tasks, they give you another task to do. And you end up having a choice of morphing things like fly, a ferret, a giraffe, a hyena. I mean, they're fun little morphs, and I was quite happy with the inclusion of a giraffe morph, because, I don't know, it's one of those... I had a thought today about what I do after I read this series, and one of the things I want to do is top 5 morphs I think would have been great in the books that weren't included. And you know what? I'm not a big fan of giraffes, but I thought giraffe is an interesting morph and one that I'm quite intrigued to see. Do I count that in my video at the end of the season where I say top 5 morphs they didn't use that they should have? Because this is not really canon. These are questions for another day. Stop asking them. Does this book work? No, I think is the final answer. Obviously, they thought it worked well enough the first time that they made a second one, which I believe was published after book 40. So when that comes along, we'll do this whole bloody thing again. And I imagine the review is going to be much the same. But yeah, was this a good read? Not really. Not really. I just don't think the format works. I really don't. And the idea of inserting myself into the book, it didn't feel like it was me. I don't know if a child would be reading that thinking, oh, it's literally me, picturing myself doing it. No, in my head it was just some bland kid with no personality just tagging on, and I was reading sort of from, I think it was in second person for the majority of this book. I say for the majority because sometimes it talked from first person. Yeah, I think that's another editor thing, but yeah, I don't really like it that much. If I were to rate it, if I were to give it a score out of 10, which I'm not going to do, but unofficially I would give it a 2. 2 or 3, because I mean, there wasn't that much wrong. There wasn't many inconsistencies, per se. It was just bad. Just generally bad. But you know what? They were experimenting. They were trying something new. And, I mean, why not? But I just add it to my collection. It's part of the collection. Nothing more. I don't consider it canon. I don't consider any of it canon, even though at times it tries to be. Yeah, it's the cover is fun, just a shiny lion, and if you look sort of in the middle, just off to the right there, I don't think you can see it because there's not enough light on there, but it's all made up of little Animorphs logos, but just there it says in thought speech notation, join us. And I did join you on this journey, and I thoroughly did not enjoy it. Okay, so I think that pretty much sums it up, really. I don't think there's much else to say. If you want to watch me reading the whole book and going through the choices given in the book, that was my previous video, which I uploaded yesterday. Go watch that if you're so intrigued. It's an hour and a half long. I understand that it probably won't get that many views or view time, but I thought, I've never read the Alternamorphs. Me, big Animorphs fan, what do you do? Well, I'm clearly not, because I didn't read every single book. I didn't read that one or the second Alternamorphs, so if you want to see me reading a book, an Animorphs book, for the first time, that's the video you want to go watch. And I hope my voice is nice and soothing enough for you. So, without further ado, let's discuss next time. It will be this one, The Experiments, the one with the cow on the cover. I believe this was one of the first Animorphs books I bought, because I saw Axe on it, and it looked funky-dunky as I was a kid, but that's a discussion for another day. That's another ghost-written one as well, by the way. If you're interested in anything more Animorphs related, I do fan fiction. I've gotten up to 64 in my continuation. This is the first of those books, book 55, The Interrogation. It's from Jake's narration point of view, and it deals with the aftermath of coming across the One out in space. I'm sure a lot of you, most of you, probably all of you, have read book 54. And the cliffhanger ending, I continue it from there and take it on a brand new adventure. We've also got an Animorphs Discord. I'm hoping to set up another quiz soon, which will be on books 6 to 10, with some additional Animorphs questions. We have a great time on the Animorphs Discord. We've got about 450 members. We've got quite a few active, and the Discord goes on spurts of activity, largely depending on whether we're playing a game, or whether there's a big topic of discussion, or whether there's been a bit of Animorphs news. And remember, if you like Animorphs news, this is the place to be. This is where you're going to get all of your Animorphs news. I'm making sure of it. I'm keeping an eye on Google News for any recent articles that come up. So if you don't find it, I will, and you'll find it through me. So if you love Animorphs, this is the place to be. The Animorphs YouTube channel. And if you don't like Animorphs, then you can fuck off. Right? Do you hear me? Only Animorphs fans allowed. Football fans as well, I like football too. You can stay. But if you're a fucking Honda Jazz driver, you can fuck off out of it. I've had it with you. Fucking scum blocking up the roads. Fucking driving at 30 miles an hour in a 60 zone. I've had it. I've had it with you fucking Honda Jazz drivers. The scum, the lot of you, you're part of the problem. You might think, oh, I drive at a reasonable speed in my Honda Jazz. Like fuck do you. Never once have I seen a Honda Jazz driving at a reasonable fucking speed. It causes accidents. right? You think, oh, driving too fast, yeah, that causes all the accidents. Driving too slow is even fucking worse than driving too fast, especially where I live, Cornwall, where every road is like fucking 3 feet wide, and you're trying to overtake a Honda Jazz trundly-dundling at 20 miles an hour on the main bloody road. You're trying to get past, wham, yeah, you're fucking head first into a tractor. And that's not fun. Honda Jazz, scum of the fucking earth. If David drove a car, he would drive a Honda Jazz. If Visa 3 drove a car, he would drive a bug fighter in the shape of a Honda Jazz. Right? Is that clear? If you're an Animorphs fan and you're driving a Honda Jazz, who the fuck do you think you are? Right? Scum. Nothing more than scum. I've had it. I'm up to here. No, I'm up to here. I'm up to the fucking Eiffel Tower, right at the tippity top with you. Right? Nah, I'm just fucking kidding. No, I'm not. You're scum, right? Right, I've had enough. I've had enough of you. Go away. God, the lot of you. Sod off. But to you Animorphs fans, I hope you've enjoyed this video. And I'll see you next time. I should have a video going up on Monday. I'll definitely have the next episode of the TV series review going up on Wednesday. So tune in for that. I shall see you next time. Ta-ra!